should you get the Sony Alpha a6000 in 2021? Let's have a look at that. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be on this fine planet. Today we're going to be asking ourselves, should you get the Sony a6000 in 2021? That's right, this is the Sony Alpha a6000 mirrorless APS-C camera. First released, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 7 years ago, in February of 2014. So yeah, literally a couple of months ago it was its 7th birthday. Now the question is, should you get this camera now? Well, there's two bits of news for you. From what I've heard, Sony has discontinued this camera, so you'll find it very hard to buy this brand new. Some shops still may stock it, but otherwise you're gonna go secondhand, and secondhand you'll find these for about 200 to 250 pounds, and if you can still lucky enough to find them in a shop, probably looking around the 400 mark. Now this camera, when it came out in 2014, was a cut above the rest. I mean, it was mirrorless. It has an interchangeable lens, and inside there you see the APS-C sensor. It comes with Sony's E-mount, therefore you can mount even lenses which are for the Sony full frame camera. So like your a7 III, a7S III, a7R, a7 III, etc, etc, you get the point. However, bear in mind that images will be cropped when using full frame lenses. Now as a kit lens, you'll get this 16 to 50 3.5 to 5.6 little lens, and it is very small and compact, perfect for traveling and on the go. Bear in mind, it's not the greatest quality of lens, and you'll be far better off, like I normally put this Sony 24 G Master on here. Still makes it relatively small, but remember, it's more about the lens that you put on the camera and not the camera itself. You're better off having a cheaper camera and a better lens than having a cheap lens and the best camera on the planet. Now let's go for photography. This bad boy is equipped with a 24, I believe, megapixel sensor. It is the Bion ZX, and I can tell you what, 24 megapixels is plenty. Now I use the a7S III, even for photos, that's a 12 megapixel camera, and you know what, I can still get large prints. And you know what, the biggest print I've done is at least probably 80 to a meter, or 80 centimeters to a meter tall, and about 50, 60 centimeters in width. And I got that with the a7 III, which is also a 24 megapixel camera. So if you want to print, by all means, you're happy to print with 24 megapixels, and don't let anyone tell you that 24 megapixels is not enough, because you know what, it is, and the proof is in the pudding everywhere around my house on the walls where I have printed some of my photos. Regarding the menu system, it's Sony's old menu system, so you know what, you're gonna have to spend some time with the camera and get to know those menus, get to learn those menus, and it is difficult, well, not difficult, it is cumbersome, but you'll get there eventually and you'll get to know the settings of your camera. With regards to video work, this camera films only in 1080. Now remember, 2014 1080, not a problem. Now 2021, some of you might be thinking 4K, possibly 6 or 8K, but you know what, I film 4K. Why? Because my computer can handle it. I've got this camera to do it. But 1080, most TVs are still 1080p, let's be honest, and even 1080 on a 4K display still looks good. However, when you're shooting videos, remember this is the first of the a6000 range. We've had the 6200, 6300, 6400, 6100 and 6600 cameras. This is one of the first ones, like I said, 7 years ago, and you will not have picture profiles. So if you're looking to film in S-Log3, S-Log2, HLG, Cine 2, Cine 4, whatever you're thinking of, you will not be able to do that. It does have, however, some creative styles. So we have standard, vivid, neutral, clear, and the only things you can adjust on there is the saturation, the contrast, and the sharpness. So if you want to play around with color grading, what I recommend is go into something like the neutral profile, bring down the contrast by 2, bring down the saturation by 2, and bring down the sharpness by 3. And that's what it looks like in camera. So do that, and then you'll be able to play around. Now you're probably thinking, why am I lowering sharpness, contrast, saturation in the camera and then going to be putting it back in post? Well, you know what, I've played around with it, and putting, especially sharpness, putting it back in post gives you a much nicer video rather than in-camera sharpening, which is kind of, you know what, a little bit overdone. Now if you check some of my previous videos when I started filming, I was cranking up the sharpness in camera to the max, but now even on the a7S III, I'm filming with sharpness, or what's called detail in that camera, of -5, and then bringing the sharpness back in post. So like I said, for video, neutral, bring down the contrast, bring down the sharpness, and bring down the saturation. With regards to photo and video, this little bad boy is equipped with 174 focus points, if I'm not mistaken, but again, all the specs are sharp on the screen of the camera. Now again, 174, you may need to think twice when you're composing your image or composing your video. Brand new cameras from 2020, 2021, we're talking at 400, 500, 600 edge-to-edge focus points. You're not getting this here, but for someone starting off, especially in vlogging, YouTube, 174 will be plenty, because you're going to either position yourself in the middle or the rule of thirds, and those focus points will pick you up. Now, not many people know this, but the a6000 does have eye detect. Now it's only for photos, and I believe it will only work if you set the camera to autofocus single. This lens, by the way, while I'm looking at this lens, I'm putting the lens cap back on. Like I said before, it's not the greatest lens, but it does have optical steady shot built in, so it will smoothen out your, either when you're taking the photos or when you're vlogging around, so that is a big boost for you. With regards to battery, now look at that. That is the FW50 battery. Now since then, I mean, this battery is known for being quite small, literally and metaphorically, and you'll probably get around 300-400 shots. I was quite lucky, once got 500 shots out of the camera. For video, again, you're not looking at much. Most recently, Sony has updated to the FW100 battery, which is all in this big A7Ss, A7Rs and A7 series, and even I believe either the 6100 or 6600 also has the new larger battery. So you may want to get one more. I would say some people are saying on YouTube, get 4, get 5 more. Trust me, you don't. For a normal person like myself, 1 extra battery will be plenty for you. So get 1 more battery, and then you can make up your mind if you want more. Because this is such an old camera, there's plenty of batteries which are cheap. There's plenty of third-party batteries, so you will have no problem at all. Now, another problem which you might face, and which you've just seen me face quite literally on when we're doing the face detection, is the screen is only an articulated screen and only goes up that far or down like that. So if you're looking at vlogging and filming yourself, you will not be able to see yourself. Now you can use little mirror hacks that go onto the hot shoe mount, and this has a fully working hot shoe mount, so you can add on a hot shoe mic, but don't quote me on that one. Do your research first, because this camera from the inputs only has a micro HDMI or a mini HDMI and a micro USB port on the side. So I believe there is a specific Sony mic that mounts onto this and you will be able to get sound, but again, do your research first. Another small little quirk, it does have this little flash. I don't know why Sony put it on there. It's more a hindrance than anything else. I mean, I wouldn't use it for direct shooting. You may want to use it if you kind of point it up like that and bounce the light off a wall or off the ceiling. That's the only time I would really use it. It's there if you want it. With regards to the buttons are pretty clicky, pretty smooth. You do have 2 custom, so you got a C1 and a C2 button, which you can customize. From the bottom, you do have a normal mount for your tripod, so that's great to see. And the one last thing I would say is it does have NFC. So with regarding to transferring photos, you'll take your mobile, download the Sony imaging app, or on Android as well, you'll tap your camera on the side and it'll transfer photos like that. So one brilliant feature for your Instagram, for your Facebook or other social media. But that's going to wrap it up for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it and it was informative. Remember, it's all about the lens, or it's mostly about the lens, less about the camera. Do I recommend it? You know what? It's up to the individual. If you're just starting out, you want a camera which is better than the mobile, which is better than the point and shoot, you don't want to spend the big bucks, you don't care about 4K video, you don't care about good slow motion, because the highest this goes is to 60 frames per second. There's no 120. You know, for a beginner, for someone who's starting, or even a little bit beyond that, you know what, yeah, go for it, especially if you get a good price on it and get a good lens on it. You know, Sigma, Tamron, they all do lenses for this camera. Just make sure it's APS-C. If you want the brand new technologies, all the gizmos, all the focus points, 4K, etc, etc, full frame, then you're gonna have to look somewhere else. But otherwise, more than happy to get that. That will be it for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next one, everybody. Goodbye for now.